Hi there. Today's project is making a Longworth Chuck. Now the Longworth Chuck was invented by Leslie Longworth of Australia back in the late 80s. And it's a really cool tool for a wood turner. It's got two discs that are cut with these slots. They're identical. And then you take them and you turn one upside down on the other one. Put these buttons on here with bolts through it. And when you turn these, they'll move in and out. So you can put a bowl in there, tighten it up, and then you can use that to turn the bottom off of your bowl. Now I didn't really need this. I do have the large pole jaws, work pretty much the same way, but I've always wanted to build one, and I also thought there are a lot of wood turners out there, particularly new wood turners, who may not even know these exist and want to make their own. Now you can make this with a router and a circle cutting jig. I even read about a guy who apparently made one with a scroll saw. You'd have to be a lot more accurate with that than I am, but it could be done. Now I'm very fortunate, I have a CNC router. And there's a fellow out there, his name is Phil Johnson, who is an expert on CNC routers, and he allowed me to download the file that I could put into my easel software to cut these. I'm going to put a link to Phil's website in case you want to check him out. He does a lot of fantastic stuff with a CNC router, and he puts things on there to sell in case you're interested in seeing what he has. Thank you, Phil. I really appreciate you letting me have that file. Now, there's no use running through everything twice, so we'll get working on this now and show you how it was made. It's 5/8 inch Baltic birch plywood that I've used. I've seen a lot of people use 3/4 inch. I don't really think you need it that heavy for what I'm doing. So let's go take a look and see how this was made. This first part you're seeing is known as peck drilling, and that just means that the bit is going to go down a little bit and then back up to clear the chips, down a little bit more and a little bit more until it finishes drilling a straight hole. I have sped this up significantly because I know how quickly I get bored watching something repetitive like this. I have left the dust boot off for clarity so that you can see exactly what is going on. Now let me show you the difference doing the same thing with the dust boot. The dust boot allows me to collect a hose from the dust collector so that all the dust can be taken away, and it does do about 99% of it. Alright, the carving is complete. I think it did a very nice job. Now one of the things I did was put what they call tabs. There are 4 tabs, and they're about 2 millimeters thick. You might be able to make them out here. And that's just so that when the bit's going around, it doesn't cut all the way through, and then this would want to wander around. So now all I need to do is just cut those tabs. See, one of them is already given way, the one's along the grain direction. I'll do the 2 that are against the grain, and then the other one should just break right off. There we go. Need a frame for something? Alright, I'm quite pleased with that. Now what I have to do is just sand in here to get rid of all of these fuzzies, sand around the edge, and I should be ready to put this together. Usually when I build a jig of any kind, I don't worry too much about making it beautiful. I want to make it functional. But I do want to protect the surface of this, so I'm going to use Varathane. It does a good job of protecting it, and that's all I'm looking for. I'm going to be putting it on with a foam brush, and I will do one side, then I will flip it over on these painter pyramids to do the second side and around the edge. I don't want to get any down into the grooves necessarily. The bolt slides in there very nicely right now. I don't want anything to impede that. So I will get the Varathane put on and then I'll be back. I need 8 pieces of 3/4 inch dowel, 7/8 of an inch long. I'm going to cut them to 1 inch because, as you will see, I will be sanding them to the exact length. I am using a Longworth Chuck to hold the dowel. Then I will use a Jacob's chuck to hold a 1/4 inch drill bit to drill through the center of the dowel. Now I will use the lower jaws on my Xylus vise to squeeze the dowels into the cane tips. I'm using my disc sander to sand the dowel flush with the cane tip. Now I'm using my drill press to drill down through the dowel and create a hole in the bottom of the cane tip. Okay, I got them coated with Varathane, a couple of coats between the 2 plates just to make them swivel a little more easily. I've waxed them so they should spin very well. Now the first thing I want to do is put on a faceplate. I'm using a 4-inch faceplate. Got my centering jig. Put this on, and I'm using 1-inch wood screws. All right, now to join the plates together, I'm going to use a 1 1/2 inch 1/4 bolt. And I've got a fender washer on each side, and I'm using one of those lock nuts with the nylon insert in it. Just so the nut doesn't fall out of there, I'll tip this up. Now I want this tight enough to hold very well on that nut, but not so tight that they won't spin. Now this is going to work very well. Now my next step is going to be putting these rubber stoppers through here. On the other side I'll put a fender washer and a wing nut. And then they should be ready to go. I'll take them over to the lathe and we'll see how this works. Now, what better place to put this together than right here on the lathe? I have found that if these holes are lined up, then going into the slot to the highest one that crosses it and putting it together there is the right place to do it. So I'll just go all the way around here putting these together. All right, with all of these buttons ready, but just loosely, you can see you quite easily adjust. Must have one of these a little tight. All right, there we go. So now, this is just a bowl that I keep in my shop, one I did a long time ago and don't much like, to be honest. I can lock the spindle and then bring these down until it's snug. Once they're snug, I just need to tighten up all these buttons and it'll be ready to turn. All right, all the buttons are tight. Let's see how this is going to run. That's certainly acceptable to me. It's not perfect, but perfection is just something to try to attain. Also, this is quite a ways out, and the further you go out, the more run out you will see. On a shallow bowl, it would be much less. I'm quite satisfied with this. I think this is a keeper. Well, that was a fun project. I enjoyed making this. And as I said before, you don't need a CNC router to do this. It helps, but you can do it with a router and a circle cutting jig and have just as good a product when you're finished. And if you want to know how to do that, just do a search on YouTube for Longworth Chuck and you will find lots of videos showing you how to do it. If you want to design it yourself, I'm going to put a link down below the description box on how to draw this in Inkscape. And Inkscape is a free drawing program, very powerful, but you don't have to put out a lot of money for it. It just takes a little bit of practice. Again, I want to thank Phil Johnson for letting me download his plan for this. Thank you so much, Phil. I really appreciated it. And if you haven't heard of these before, I hope maybe this will inspire you to make one of your own. So, thank you for watching. If you did like this, click the like button. Let me know that this is the kind of thing you want to see. We'll see what I can come up with in the future. Now, I hope you'll come back next time. Between now and then, have a great day in your shop and be safe. Take care now.